You probably think that the number 666 is the number of the beast, representing evil and the devil. The number 666 is repeatedly sold to us as a sinister symbol in horror movies and novels. The fear is so widespread that people avoid it in car plates, hotel rooms, and even street numbers, believing it brings bad luck. But what if I told you this isn't true, and that 666 isn't the number of evil at all? What if I told you that due to an error, people believed it was 666, but in reality, the number of evil is hidden in other digits? It's crucial that you listen to this episode, as you'll understand the fatal mistake with the number 666, and I'll reveal what the real number of the beast is. If you know the true number of evil, you can avoid it. Because perhaps it wasn't a mistake, and 666 was intentionally popularized to hide the real number from those who don't dig deeper. Let's begin by understanding the origin of the number 666. The only chapter in the entire Bible where this number appears is in the book of Revelation chapter 13. Let's start by deciphering the first verse. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. This verse describes a situation of absolute control, where all individuals, without exception, are forced to receive a mark symbolizing loyalty and submission to the beast. In the original Greek text, the word used to describe the mark is charagma, which can refer to an inscription, seal, or engraving. It is a visible sign of ownership. The mark represents a sign of submission and fidelity to the beast, a symbol of control and conformity. This mark on the right hand or forehead suggests that everyone will be exposed to see the ownership, as both locations are highly visible. The right hand symbolizes work, deeds, and actions of an individual. Meanwhile, the forehead represents the mind, beliefs, and thoughts of a person. The placement of the mark in these locations signifies absolute control over people's actions and thoughts, demanding total loyalty and stripping away autonomy. Moreover, the mark is forced upon all social and economic classes, indicating complete domination over every person. Let's continue with the next verse. So that they couldn't buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This verse delves deeper into the beast's absolute control over humanity, using commerce as a means of coercion. Only those who accept the mark, name, or number of the beast can participate in the economy, implying total dependence and forced loyalty. Controlling access to commerce is a powerful form of coercion, compelling people to conform in order to survive. This suggests a totalitarian system where the economy is centrally controlled and used as a tool of oppression. Modern interpreters see parallels with totalitarian systems in history and today, where economic control and restriction of personal freedoms are used to enforce conformity and loyalty to the regime. This verse highlights the severity of oppression and the challenge faced by those who wish to remain faithful to God in times of great tribulation. Let's look at the final verse. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. This number, made up of 3 sixes, represents repeated imperfection, in contrast to the number 7, which symbolizes divine perfection. It reflects the deceptive and imperfect nature of the Antichrist, who will attempt to take God's place, but will fall short in the face of true divinity. The Bible tells us that the Antichrist will start his rise as a local leader, but will quickly become a tyrant who dominates the entire world. According to Scripture, this figure will be a charismatic and deceptive leader who seeks to unite the world under his rule, promising peace and security, but ultimately bringing chaos and destruction. The Bible warns us, "Let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he sits in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God." This verse gives us a clear picture of his arrogance and malicious intent. The Bible warns us, at first, the Antichrist will appear as a savior, riding on a white horse and carrying a bow without arrows. He symbolizes deceptive peace and false security. During the first 3.5 years of his reign, the Antichrist will deceive the entire world, promising peace and prosperity, but this calm is nothing more than an illusion. Imagine a charismatic leader emerging out of nowhere, promising peace and security in times of chaos. Suddenly, this leader starts amassing power at an alarming rate. Desperate for solutions, the nations of the world begin to follow him blindly. This is the Antichrist, a master of deception whose goal is to lead humanity into rebellion against God. Then, halfway through these 7 years, his true nature will be revealed. Suddenly, the mask will fall. The Antichrist will enforce a mark, known as the mark of the beast, without which no one will be able to buy or sell. In Revelation 13, it is mentioned that authority will be given to act for 42 months, during which time he will blaspheme against God, persecute the saints, and be allowed to wage war against them and overcome them. Every inhabitant of the earth whose name is not written in the book of life will worship the beast. However, their reign will not be absolute. God's judgments will begin to fall upon the earth. The promised peace will turn into chaos. Wars, famine, and death will prevail. The text urges readers to use wisdom to grasp the number's significance. It suggests that interpreting the number isn't straightforward, but requires insight. It implies that those with spiritual understanding or special discernment can decipher the number's meaning. This knowledge isn't accessible to all, but to those with spiritual perception. Perhaps to keep this knowledge from those who lack understanding, the true number of the beast has been concealed. This passage from the current Bible has led to associating the number 666 with the concept of the beast and the Antichrist, sparking numerous interpretations and speculations over the centuries. However, this isn't true. The number 666 isn't the devil's number. There's clear evidence that this number is incorrect. Papyrus 115 is the oldest known manuscript of Revelation in the world. It dates back to the 3rd century and was discovered in Oxyrhynchus, Egypt. In this papyrus, the number of the beast is recorded as 616 instead of 666. So, if the correct number is actually 616, why do current Bibles show the incorrect number 666? The error in changing the number from 616 to 666 could be due to various reasons, but the most likely theory is that a mistake occurred during the transmission and copying of ancient manuscripts. During the early centuries of Christianity, New Testament texts were copied by hand by scribes. This manual copying process often resulted in errors or textual variations. However, in this case, it may not have been a mistake. It's possible that a copyist deliberately changed the number from 616 to 666 to associate it with the devil figure of their time, the Roman Emperor Nero. But why is Nero represented by 666? The connection between Nero and the number 666 is based on the practice of gematria, a system in which letters of the Hebrew and Greek alphabets are used to represent numbers. Through this system, names can be translated into specific numerical values. In the context of gematria, the name of Emperor Nero can be written in Hebrew as Nero Caesar. Thus, 306 from the word Nero plus 360 from the word Caesar adds up to 666. Emperor Nero is infamous for persecuting Christians during his reign over the Roman Empire. The most brutal persecution occurred after the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. This devastating blaze ravaged much of Rome, destroying numerous districts and causing immense suffering and devastation. While the exact causes of the fire remain unclear, rumors circulated that Nero himself had ordered it. Nero allegedly wanted to clear land for his construction projects, such as his lavish palace, the Domus Aurea. To deflect attention and accusations from himself, Nero needed a scapegoat. Christians, already a minority group with practices Romans found strange and antisocial, became a convenient target. The Roman historian Tacitus, in Book 15 of Annals, chapter 44, describes how Nero blamed the Christians for the fire. Tacitus recounts Nero's brutal persecution of Christians, subjecting them to horrific tortures and executions. This account provides one of the most detailed sources on the persecution of Christians under Nero's reign. Christians were arrested en masse and subjected to savage tortures and executions. Some were covered in animal skins and torn apart by dogs, others were crucified, and many were burned alive to serve as nighttime illumination in Nero's gardens. This persecution left a deep scar on the collective memory of the early Christian community, cementing Nero's reputation as a figure of great evil in Christian tradition. In later Christian literature, Nero was frequently associated with the Antichrist or figures of supreme evil. It's possible that a scribe changed the number 616 to 666 to attribute it to Nero, remembering his brutality and persecution. But how could this error remain uncorrected in new versions of the Bible? Christian tradition and theology have shaped the acceptance of the number 666. In the 2nd century, Church Father Irenaeus of Lyon argued that this was the correct number. His theological influence and writings contributed to its acceptance in Christian tradition. Once a version of the biblical text became widely copied and distributed, it gained prominence and became the standard. Although many experts have exposed the truth about this error, the reality is that the number 666 has become a commercial tool. Movies like The Omen, End of Days, and Constantine, as well as songs like Iron Maiden's The Number of the Beast and the Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil, have further cemented this belief in popular culture. But the truth is that the number 666 has another hidden biblical meaning. The number 6 is the number of man and human imperfection. In the creation story in the book of Genesis, God created man on the 6th day. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the 6th day. The number 6 is seen as incomplete, as it is one step short of the number 7, which represents divine perfection and completeness. God rested on the 7th day. Exodus 20 states that man should work for 6 days and rest on the 7th, the Sabbath. This reinforces the idea that the number 6 is associated with human effort and the need for rest, symbolizing human imperfection and limitation. Thus, the 666 is seen as an intensification of human imperfection and corruption, contrasting with the perfection represented by the number 7. A biblical chapter that best represents the difference between the numbers 6 and 7 is in the 6th chapter of Joshua. Here we read that Joshua and the Israelites marched around Jericho once a day for 6 days with 7 priests carrying 7 trumpets. It was on the 7th day that the people were to march 7 times around Jericho, and the priests would blow the trumpets to make the city walls fall. God commanded the Israelites to march for 6 days to demonstrate their imperfect ability to demolish Jericho. But on the seventh day, God destroyed the city so that he alone would receive the glory. Only God is perfect, and only he can perform perfect miracles. It's not by man's power, but solely by God's hand. However, the number 7 symbolizes perfection and divinity. The number 7 appears 463 times in the Bible. 7 angels, 7 trumpets in the book of Revelation. Jesus says to forgive a sinner 70 times 7. 7 angels pour out 7 bowls filled with God's wrath. But 7 also holds restorative power. The 4th commandment tells us to work 6 days and rest on the 7th. God may have given us this commandment because he knows our weaknesses well and that we cannot work continuously all 7 days of the week. God also instructed the Israelites to harvest their land for 6 years and then let it rest on the 7th year. This 7th year is called the Year of Jubilee. God's command is not just agricultural genius, but also illustrates his power to restore what he has created. Another example of the restorative power of the number 7 is the creation of man on the 6th day and his subsequent fall into sin, with Jesus' death on the cross on the 6th day of Passover. The 7th day of the Passover celebration was the Sabbath, in accordance with the 4th commandment. This meant that all judicial punishments had to be resolved by the 6th day of Passover week. So, Pontius Pilate and Herod examined Jesus on the 5th day and into the early hours of the 6th day. Then he was nailed to the cross on the afternoon of the 6th day. Just as man was created in 6 days, Jesus restored the connection between heaven and man on the 6th day of Passover, opening a path for us to find salvation through his redeeming blood. From now on, pay close attention to the number 616. It shows up in subtle ways. Maybe you look at the clock and it always seems to be 6:16, or you get a ticket and your number 616. If it's happened to you, let us know in the comments box. Maybe you're seeing it now on street signs, billboards, addresses, phone numbers, and other ordinary everyday places. Let us know if you do. You know the secret of number 666. You know this is another secret. Why is Psalm 91 so powerful? Surely you know that Psalm 91 is the prayer asking for the protection of God, and that it has served as a consolation and strength to thousands of believers across generations. But behind this there is something much deeper. Let's unveil the verse-by-verse explanation of Psalm 91 in this video that appears on the screen. Click on the video to understand the hidden power of Psalm 91.